Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss. Say her name, Renee Nicole Good, who was murdered in cold blood by ICE agents. Michael Cohen, I want you to start off by just try to framing this moment, if you can, about where we are.
That's one of maybe the toughest things I think, Ben, that you've ever asked me to do. The only way that I could possibly express myself, maybe without having tears rolling down my eyes, is to talk about how I expressed it this morning in my Substack, which I called Screams from Minneapolis. The screams didn't echo, they lingered, exposing a government that shoots first, lies second, and leaves a grieving country to absorb the silence afterward. I think that's about the only way that I could possibly describe it right now. We're sitting right now in a country where, for no reason at all, you have ICE agents in a community. A woman, a mom, a daughter, a neighbor, a friend is shot in the face 3 times by ICE agents as she's trying to leave. And then all of a sudden, you have your country, you have your representatives sit there and turn around and blame the victim. That, as J.D. Vance said, she is the reason for her own tragedy. They lie and they say that she's the one who knocked over, for example, an ICE agent, and he was acting in the course of his federal duties. This is beyond. I'm with you, Ben, and I ask every single person that's with us right now, because I'm going to say this today, I'm going to say it tomorrow, I'm going to say this is one of the most grotesque things that's imaginable. And by the way, it happens to be the 5th person killed by an ICE agent since they started 11 months ago. So say her name as Ben started this out. Renee Nicole Good. She's now leaving over 3 children, orphans. You may not know this, but the husband passed, and I think he was in the military. I think he was an honored serviceman. And this is the way that we repay her family. Shame on us.
Cohen, now talk to us about Greenland and your response to all of that. There's a mic issue that I'm having live right now, but talk to us about Greenland as I figure out this mic issue.
Greenland. This is another scenario that, again, has to befuddle each and every one of us. First and foremost, Greenland is not a part of the United States. It should not be a part of the United States. And for as many times as people keep talking about that we need it for national security purpose, that this is something that they've been talking about now for 150 years, etc. That's not what this is about at all. Because in fact, there's a treaty with Finland that allows us to occupy whatever space we may need in order to ensure American protectionism. But here's what people aren't telling you. That Greenland, the reason they want it, the same reason they want Nigeria, the same reason they want Canada, the same reason they want Venezuela, there are rare earth minerals in that area. And they want it because this is not even about oil, even though, of course, there is a tremendous amount of oil, for example, in Venezuela. This is about the rare earth minerals, which they need in order to advance AI, in order to build these data centers and the chips. There's rare earth minerals that are needed, and they are located in the ground. By the way, is it any different, for example, than what Vladimir Putin was doing in the Donbass region? There's rare earth minerals there too. And so what they've decided to do is to go back to the Monroe Doctrine. They've decided to go back in time and to employ this where there are hemispheres. And we have the right to protect our hemisphere. Please, somebody tell me, when was the last time that, I don't know, the United States was invaded by Colombia? That the United States was invaded by Venezuela or by Cuba? I understand the concept. I also understand that they're trying to make fun of it by changing the name from the Monroe Doctrine to the Donroe Doctrine, because, as always, it's about him. And the same thing, by the way, you're right, with Canada. One of our followers actually just reminded me, Canada as well. Many, many rare earth materials that are needed for AI development. And why should we have to buy it? Why should we have to pay for it when we can just take it? And that's the issue here.
So much starting with an invasion of Venezuela, propping up the Delcy Rodriguez regime, an extension of Maduro. You see right now in Venezuela the colectivos on the street. To the extent anybody's telling you that there's opposition parties that are celebrating in Venezuela, you're being lied to. That doesn't mean the opposition doesn't exist in Venezuela. It means they're incredibly afraid right now to come out in Venezuela because the regime, the Maduro regime, the extension of it, Delcy, who Donald Trump believes will be Maduro, but will give him the oil and give him the resources. Delcy is in control. Diosdado is in control, who is Maduro's main henchman, and the entire Chavista regime, is firmly in control. These collectivos are gangs, the way kind of like ICE. And I'm not trying to make light of it, kind of like Border Patrol right now. And Donald Trump wanted his own collectivos in the United States, and he got Congress to give him $200 billion to form the American collectivos called ICE, called Border Patrol, that roam our streets and terrorize communities here. In Venezuela, the collectivos are loyal to the Maduro regime, to Delcy, to Diosdado, to all those people. And they're going around looking at phones. And if you are texting pro-American things or anything that's against the regime, they're disappearing you or killing you or throwing you in prison right now. That's actually what's happening in Venezuela. Now, Donald Trump says they're giving us 30 to 50 million barrels of oil. I guess in what form are they giving it to us? Because if you understand the way the oil works in Venezuela, it's a very kind of sticky and muddy oil that requires an expensive refinement process that the United States is capable of doing. But Trump says they're giving us that. By the way, that's the equivalent of what? $2 billion, $3 billion, about a day and a half of the kind of oil that would other.
Yeah.
It's not like a huge. And Trump keeps on saying, well, now Venezuela has agreed to buy American, whatever even that's supposed to mean. So our taxpayer dollars are going to go there. Then they're going to use, it's like a Ponzi scheme. Then they're going to use our taxpayer dollars to then buy American. The oil companies, even though Donald Trump says that they were briefed before and after the invasion, before Congress got to know any of this, the oil companies are like, we didn't really know. And
Ben, can we just talk about the oil companies for a second? Trump talks about the oil companies in the same manner that he speaks about Boeing or any of the other, Lockheed Martin, as an example. For some unknown reason, and nobody brings it up, and I think it's important that we talk about it, they are not owned. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, they are not owned by the United States. This is not like NASA, where it's an agency or a division. They are private companies. They're publicly traded companies. And he talks about how now Boeing is selling more planes. Lockheed Martin, our companies, our airplane companies, are manufacturing planes like never, at records never seen before. That's great. if you are a shareholder of Boeing or Lockheed Martin, if you are a shareholder of ExxonMobil, Texaco Pennzoil, or any of the other big oil conglomerates. He talks as if we, the American people, will benefit from the sale of the oil, the sale of these aircrafts to foreigners, or the whole thing is pure lies. It's a gigantic pile of bullshit, literally wrapped up in more bullshit, and nobody calls it out. When Trump is being questioned, whether it's on Air Force One or when he's standing outside, the White House on the lawn, or even inside the Oval Office, is there a reason why nobody will say to him, Mr. President, you keep bringing up, our airplane manufacturers, you keep bringing up the oil companies that were spoken to about this before even you spoke to Congress? Does the United States have an interest in the oil companies or these airplane companies?
Well, I think he, absolutely wants to as well. So let's just be clear. The situation in Venezuela with no plan, throwing Maria Corina Machado under the bus, supporting the Maduro regime through Delcy and Diosdado and all of the people and the collectivos and that regime. The oil companies, though, that are based in America, or these international companies, they want guarantees, right? They want to be sure that they're not going to lose money. So Trump is already talking about subsidies, which could be as much as $100 billion for the oil companies that taxpayers are paying for. Remember, I'm just thinking about his priorities. What, $40 billion to Argentina, potentially $100 billion to oil companies now in Venezuela. Who knows how much the invasion cost? I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars.
So I heard up to $500 million was the cost of the invasion.
Yeah, and what would it? What's the operating cost going to be to run a country of 28 million people?
Instead of even trying to figure that out, what's the cost for the extraction of the oil that Trump is talking about, the refining of it, and so on? It's more than what you can get on the market. It's more than what's called spot price.
Right. And then that's why Donald Trump posts, I've decreed that the military budget will now be $1.5 trillion. And Trump says, and at the same time in this post, we're going to pay down all of our debt. We will give dividend checks to every American, and the deficit will decrease. Okay, like all of that is an absolute lie. At the same time, he's taking away health care from the American people, and as Americans can't afford things, and as Americans can't afford housing, and as he's covering up the Epstein files. This was the post that he made right there. So, like, let's just very carefully break down the events that have transpired. Right, that's the Venezuela bucket. Like, where are we? No one really knows, is the truth. Is Delcy truly now an ally of the United States? What I can tell you is that the opposition doesn't like that she's in charge, that Venezuelans are not going to be able to return to Venezuela as long as Delcy in America, as long as Delcy and her regime are in charge. What happens next? Donald Trump has not provided any path, and it seems like a endless occupation with no plan in sight. So you put that in one bucket. Then you have, of course, the horrors that took place in South Minneapolis, which sadly were predictable. It's why you and I and others on this network continue to show the videos of the ICE raids. The Midas Touch Network partnered with a group called Status Coup, and they have journalists on the ground. Big shout out to Status Coup. Subscribe to them.
By the way, big shout out to Midas for opening up a new location in D.C.
You saw
right.
I most certainly
did. I most certainly did. Congrats. I mean, I thought that was supposed to happen at the end of the month, so I guess you're ahead of schedule, and probably, as Trump is always, under budget.
Yeah.
By the way,
I
Ben,
wore-
did you not get your $2,000 government check?
You didn't get your Doge dividend
Wait,
check?
you didn't get yours? I got mine.
You got your Doge dividend check?
I
Really?
sure
Yeah.
did.
I'm sure you got your Doge, the Doge dividends, the tariff rebates, the this, the that. It's just another Trump scam like the scams he ran before and after and during while he's in office. So then you go to South Minneapolis. The day before this murder of Renee Nicole Good, you had Kristi Noem doing her cosplay, entrance into Minneapolis with all the masked, armed, militarized Gestapo. And these people aren't really well trained at all or trained at all. And she shows up and she does her videos where she marches and just looks like an absolute idiot. They put 2,000 troops, because that's what it is. These are collectivos, right? This is Trump's paramilitary force. That's what ICE is. This is what it looks like in Venezuela. Masked people running around with assault weapons and semi-automatic, right? That's
Wait, are they also wearing fanny packs? Can we go back to that?
the collectivos.
Wait, the collectivos wear fanny packs?
No,
we need to get that for ICE.
Yeah,
right? Could you imagine these bunch of assholes?
Well, I mean, look, they kind of have their own version of the fanny packs right there. But so it's Trump's paramilitary force, puts 2,000 of them for the purpose of terrorizing and harassing peaceful communities. I mean, Renee Nicole Good, she lived in Colorado. She's a mother of 3. She was in a relationship in Minneapolis. She was raising children there. According to her ex-husband, she was bringing a child to school that morning. That she wasn't even someone who was intending to be involved with the ICE, according to her ex-husband to begin with. But regardless of if she was or she wasn't, we've all saw the video with our own eyes. We all saw it. She was very slowly driving away after she was ordered to drive away. Like that's what it shows. That officer or the ICE agent, Trump's paramilitary terrorist, first off, and these are the types of cases, Cohen, that I used to litigate as a civil rights lawyer. So I know about police protocol and policies. Like this was my area where I litigated these, and I would only take cases that were good cases to bring against police officers who violated protocol. So the first thing that I see is the officer should never have positioned himself to begin with in front of a vehicle. Like that's just not what you do. You don't stand there. If you think about getting pulled over for a ticket, your heart races, even if all you've done was go a few miles per hour over the speed limit, right? Like you're nervous in that interaction, no matter what. So if a police officer is in front of you and shouting and yelling at you to move, and you don't know what, you're highly susceptible to not hear what the orders are. It's why police are not supposed to even be there in the first place. In any event, the police officer moves to the side of the vehicle. I don't need to show that video. People have seen it over and over again. And as she's driving away, the cop pulls out his weapon and he shoots her in the face multiple times.
3 times, twice through the open window on the side and once through the windshield. You're right, Ben. Everybody has seen that video, and as gruesome and as horrifying and as soul-wrenching as it is, it's imperative everybody sees it. Ben, she backed the minivan up in order to be able to go to the right of him, right in between him and the parked vehicle on the side. If she wanted to run him over, she would have gone straight and not backed up. I mean, look, the problem is if they end up then in a litigation, or if the FBI does their job, which that they won't, the saddest part here is that this guy probably will not be held accountable. And others are now turning around and saying, and I don't disagree with them, I don't want to steal their thunder, but I agree with them completely. Malcolm Nance was the one that said it, that they'll probably even award him some medal in order to avoid the accountability. How grotesque is that?
And for Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, and others to say Renee Nicole Good was they went domestic terrorist in 0 to 2 seconds. And the only evidence out there is the video that we all saw with our own eyes, right? It's the same thing. This week was the solemn anniversary of January 6th. We all saw it. We saw what happened on January 6th. Like, yes, the January 6th hearings were illuminating to bring to light what happened behind the scenes. But if you are an objective observer of what is occurring, we know what took place on J6th. If you are an objective observer of what happens in that video, you see that Renee Nicole Good was not a domestic terrorist, was not somebody who was weaponizing her vehicle to terrorize and kill ICE off. That's not what was in the video. Quite the contrary. The terrorists were the ICE officers terrorizing peaceful communities in Minneapolis, provoking them, scaring them, and then killing a lady, a United States citizen, who had stuffed animals in her glove compartment, who moved to Minneapolis because it was a city of love and inclusiveness. And that's who they shot dead in cold blood and then defamed in her death. Say her name. Renee Nicole Good. Say her name. So we have Minneapolis. Then Michael Cohen, we have Trump's continuing threats to now invade Greenland. The threats have reached a level where there were meetings held in the Danish parliament. Denmark's parliament said, how are they going to react in the event of an invasion? Then Reuters reports that European allies or former allies of the US, including France and Germany, have come up essentially with a war plan. What do you do if the United States invades Greenland? What is the response militarily? What does that look like? You have NATO that's still there, but I think NATO at this point is basically a fiction. Yep. It is European countries who are part of it, just trying to keep it together for as long as possible, hoping that by pretending it exists, it's better than pretending it doesn't exist, I suppose, is their logic. But there's a separate European coalition right now, also involving Canada and Australia and Japan, to deal with a United States under the Trump regime that refers to itself as a predator. And Cohen, we've heard from all of these MAGA Republican Congress members who use that language, predator, that America's a predator, and that's what we do. We dominate the Western Hemisphere. And why should Denmark have a claim to Greenland? It is a spurious claim. And then you had Caroline Leavitt. I think we've got this clip, Jeremy, when she's asked by a state regime media reporter, they call themselves Fox, why don't you just rule out? They're an ally. Denmark has fought alongside Americans in Afghanistan and Iraq, in World War II. Why don't you just rule out an invasion, was the question that was ultimately asked. And Caroline Leavitt says the following. Let's play the clip.
Purchase would look like.
Caroline,
Jackie.
Caroline, just following up on Greenland, why not rule out taking it by military force?
I know that past presidents and past leaders have often ruled things out. They've often been very open about ruling things in and basically broadcasting their foreign policy strategy to the rest of the world, not just to our allies, but most egregiously to our adversaries. That's not something this president does. All options are always on the table for President Trump as he examines what's in the best interests of the United States. But I will just say that the president's first option always has been diplomacy. Again, look at Venezuela. He tried ardently to strike a good deal with Nicolas Maduro, and he told him, I will use the United States military and you will not like it if you don't take such a deal. And look at what happened. With respect to Iran, the president said the same thing, right? He tried to have serious interest in a deal with the Iranian regime with respect to their nuclear capabilities. were not interested, and so Operation Midnight Hammer happened, which was another remarkable military success under the leadership of this commander-in-chief. So the president keeps his options open, but diplomacy is always the first.
Very quickly, just one additional follow-up.
So
I'm blown away at the level of lies that come out at these press conferences. I say it all the time, and I'm still shocked to this day that people show up to this. What's the point to go to a place where you're going to ask a question and they're going to give you some scripted bullshit answer that mostly has nothing to do with the question that's asked, but more on message to something that they want to put out? There was a major success once again by our president, who is unlike any other president in the history of our country, that he is fearless, he is adamant that his way is the right way, and that he is prepared to And then he said that wasn't even the question that they asked. What would a deal for Greenland even look like when Greenland is not for sale? Well, either you take it or there could be issues. Well, that's not a negotiation. That's an extortion. And somewhere along the line, again, I wish somebody in that press pool, if you could even call them a press pool, would have said that. That is the true definition of gangster shit.
right. And so go to MAGA Mike Johnson's press conference, because Johnson was part of a briefing with Secretary of State Rubio. And according to Johnson, while Rubio talked about an invasion plan of Greenland, it was a joke, and it was part of a humorous, comedic presentation that took place at a national security briefing of the top Congress members that deal with national security, that it was part of a stand-up routine. You see, that's what the government does right now. They joke about invading NATO allies. Here's what Johnson says. Let's play it.
Does that mean we're going to go send troops into Greenland and take it over? No. I mean, they only had, 40, 50,000 people there. This is not a thing, okay? Did Marco say something like that? I think he did. I mean, it was over a 2-hour meeting in the Gang of Eight, and I think he did make a comment, but I think he did it with a smile. He was trying. I took that as a joke. He was trying to be humorous about it, okay?
The invasion humor.
we should book him immediately for Dangerfields.
But there is Trump and this kind of right-wing comedian class. It's an important point, though. Have used the pretext of humor with things that are actually not funny, right, as kind of a shield for horrific atrocities and dehumanization. And when ultimately confronted with their words, think about the original ones that going back to Trump's first campaign. You said that you sexually assault women because you're rich and they let you do it when you're a rich guy. So what do you say? It's locker room talk. Locker room. This is how guys joke in the locker room. No, it's not how guys joke in the locker room. But whenever kind of confronted with Trump's words or the atrocities threatened by the regime, there's two main responses by the MAGAs on national TV or when having to speak to the people. I didn't hear it, or he didn't really mean what he said. He was joking. What he actually meant was something that he didn't say. So use the Venezuela example. You'll have the MAGA Republicans, like I saw Mark Wayne Mullen and others say, yeah, what Donald Trump's actually saying is that he's supporting democracy and freedom in Venezuela. That's what he means. Okay, well, he literally said the opposite. That's not what he said. He said he supports Delcy Rodriguez, the authoritarian who's repressing the pro-opposition voices. And so there is this 1984 element worse of this war is peace, right? And Orwell nailed the authoritarian mind. Was Orwell prophetic? I don't think so. Orwell recognized history repeats itself. And authoritarians are, by nature, malignant narcissists, and they live in their own reality of doublespeak. His observation was what existed for most of history before the American experiment and before democracy emanating from enlightened thinking in France and Europe and other places in the 1700s took root and spread. It's a novel concept, and I'm not trying to be like America was the greatest democracy. Look, there's great democracies that did better jobs than America did with their systems in certain countries and elsewhere. But the way this manifests, right, Cohen, is a historical paradigm of the authoritarian, because they don't go out and say, hey, everybody, I'm the authoritarian, I'm repressing you.
Hey, listen to this joke. It's like, yeah, Caroline, congratulations. I understand that you're pregnant. I hope that Satan comes out of your uterus alongside the tar and sludge, but I'm only fucking joking. Who would wish something like that on anybody else? I certainly wouldn't. It was a joke. I did it with a smile. Ha ha ha. It's not so fucking funny when it's directed at you, right? It's funny when it's directed at somebody else. But you know what? Here, they're directing all of this at all of us. We're like stuck in this, as you said, like this Orwellian concept where we have what appears, or what they want it to appear, is that we have no rights. In fact, I say the exact opposite. I say we actually control the rights. And in 299 days from now, so long as everybody stays united, stays angry, that we stay focused, that you stay connected, like right here on this network, stay connected. Why? Because that day is going to be, not maybe, possibly, it will be the single most important day in any of our lives, because that's the day that we take this fucking country back once and for all. And you know something? Here's the thing. There's that expression, watches the rats jump off the sinking ship. That's what you're going to see. Just as soon as they all acknowledge that they're going to get their fucking asses handed to them in the midterms, what's going to ultimately happen? You're going to watch them one by one jump off. When you see a guy like Josh Hawley jumping already away from them, when you see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who jumped away from them and now she's no longer there, when you see these folks stepping away from the GOP, MAGA, and Trumpism, that's when you know that we have the momentum. And that's exactly when we're going to take this country back. And more importantly, hold each and every one of these people, especially like the Stephen Millers of the world, hold them accountable.
Let's take a look at some Midas Touch Washington, D.C. Bureau reporting. Shout out to Pablo Manriquez. And so for those who don't know, Midas Touch opened up a DC bureau. And so we've got reporter Pablo Manriquez. He's on Capitol Hill. I think he's the perfect guy to join Midas, or the perfect person.
Wait, I'm sorry. Breaking news. He was just picked up by ICE.
Pablo was?
No, it's just simply by the name. I was joking. Do you see? You can't see me, but I was doing it with a smile.
See, I couldn't see you. You literally, okay. You scared. You literally scared.
This is the problem. I know so many people. They turn around.
In this day and age, I was about to. My heart just sunk. You have to do split screen.
I was trying to bring some levity.
Jesus. I was like, I wasn't sure where I was. I was like, all right, maybe got to end this show right now. Pablo, you read his origin story, is an immigrant who came to the U.S. and he worked at the Hawk and Dove restaurant in D.C. and he came as a journalist, and then as he describes in his story, nobody would hire him as a reporter, as a journalist, even though he had all of the grit and was really wanted to do this. So the only job that he could get was to basically be an exterminator of rats at the Hawk and Dove, and they paid him $8 for each rat that he got rid of at the Hawk and Dove. And he developed a reputation as like the guy who got rid of the rats at the Hawk and Dove from all of the politicians. And he describes his story living with 30 other people in one complex together. And his first day where he said, I'm just going to be an independent reporter, was January 6th and the insurrection. And he's been building up this, small independent news network called Migrant Insider for some time that focuses on migrant issues. And he was threatened before, Cohen, a lot with ICE and DOJ, like multiple times. So it wouldn't have actually, it wouldn't come as a shock to me if they did. It was my biggest, I'm like, what they could do to the guy. But he's now the head of he's now joined the DC bureau for Midas. And let me just share with you some of what we captured. So the first thing I want to show you is AOC walking down the steps. I think we've got this clip. And she's asked by Pablo about ICE. Let's play this clip of AOC walking down the steps. No, we don't have AOC. Do we have any of the clips, Jeremy? I did the whole long wind up.
It was a really good layup into it, but somehow or another. Way to go, Jeremy. Way to go, Jeremy.
The editorial team was transfixed.
But I brought up that to make a sort of like a backhanded joke about Pablo. They literally are now asking people. This is not a joke. In blue states where they have sent ICE agents in, they're actually asking people to see their ID. This is so reminiscent of Nazi Germany, where you have to have your papers on. And based upon your name, your last name, your skin color, or which is crazy, the ICE agent's determination that you are not American, that they have the right to ask you for your credentials, for your documents. And I'm sitting there and saying to myself, maybe I should start walking around with a Jewish star around my arm again. Or maybe I have to turn around and I have to tattoo, the American flag on my arm. This is, when I read that article, I actually had to read it a second time because I thought maybe I was still asleep and that I was dreaming it. But that's why I was making the joke. The beauty of America is the fact that we are a melting pot. I start to look at my own family history. Great-grandfather from Italy. My great-grandma was from Odessa. My grandmother is from Argentina. My grandfather from Chicago, right? My father from Poland. My wife from Ukraine. Serious? Could you imagine, based upon the way you look, that somebody should come over and turn around and ask you for your ID, to turn around to decide whether or not you're going home, whether or not you're going to be able to go pick up your kid simply because they stop you to ask you for all your papers?
Let's take a look at Democratic Congressmember Moulton. Let's take a look at what Moulton has to say. I play this clip from our reporter.
Cities.
And do you believe that it was a murder like some of your Democratic colleagues have been saying?
I don't know yet, but it sure looks like it.
Okay.
If that ain't a murder, I don't know what is.
Got it. Thank you, Congressman.
Yep.
Now I'll play for you Congresswoman Dean. Let's play clip number 1 of Congresswoman Dean.
Is it time to start looking at the Homeland Security budget? Maybe.
Yes, and of course, the Homeland Security officer, whatever the heck her name is, the woman in the cowboy hat and many outfits.
Kristi Noem.
It's time for her to leave. Time for her to go.
I'll show you another clip of her right now. Let's play the other one.
Congresswoman, any reaction to the shooting of the woman in Minneapolis by the ICE agent?
Sadly, it's we don't know the details yet, but it was predictable that this administration would unleash unmarked and marked ICE agents terrorizing communities. It looks like somebody has lost her life, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But what's really unbelievable is this administration and the things they're willing to say immediately as a result of this. claiming that this woman is a terrorist. What's wrong with just saying we're going to investigate and find out exactly what happened here? What went wrong? Why can't they do that?
I've got the AOC
They
clip
don't
of her.
want the truth, by the way. That's the answer.
I've got the AOC clip of her going down the stairs. Here, play this clip.
Congresswoman, can I real quick get your reaction to the shooting death in Minnesota of the woman by the ICE agent?
No, this is what, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. This is what we've been warning about for a very long time, and it is, I'm just, it's tragic to say, but from the moment that, I mean, from the moment that this Congress decided to authorize and explode ICE's budget, they are accountable to no one. It's important that people know that ICE has less accountability than virtually any law enforcement agency in the United States. And yet they are some of the most well-funded. They are operating with impunity. And we just saw the murder an American citizen in cold blood in the street. And despite whatever lies that the president wants to say about what was happening in this, you can see what happened for yourselves. They shot a woman in the head in cold blood on the street. I hope that this incident is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and this is an agency that must be reined in.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Now, when we talk about all of the fire and fury, if you will, of what's taken place in the first 8 days of this year, we should also reflect upon what the Trump regime desperately wants to cover up. The Epstein files, a child sex trafficking ring. That's what they're covering up right now. They're also covering up Donald Trump's other domestic failures. The fact that things are less affordable, people can't afford homes, they can't afford rent, people are losing their jobs, data centers are, among other things, are leading to skyrocketing energy prices at home. All of Donald Trump's promises have been abject lies, abject fraud. And something to talk about that occurred today, you have Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna and Republican Thomas Massie filed in federal court a amicus brief, basically, with the judge, since they're not parties to the case, so they can't appear in the case. But tell me what you think about this move, Cohen. They went to Judge Engelmeyer.
Yep.
Because the DOJ previously represented they were going to turn over these documents to Judge Engelmeyer. And Massie and Khanna said very clearly, the DOJ cannot be trusted with making mandatory disclosures under the act. And then they also say, while we believe that criminal violations have taken place and must be addressed, the most urgent need now is for the DOJ to produce all documents and electronically stored information required by the act. And so what they're requesting that the judge do, what they're suggesting, because they're amicus, they're asking to be friends of the court to make a suggestion here, is that the court appoint an independent monitor, appoint a special master, someone like that to go in and take charge of the report. I don't know what the judge is going to do, but I think that you need it to be someone independent. And I think it's the right suggestion to make.
Ben, do you remember about 2 months ago on this show, I was teasing and I turned around and I said, nobody's ever going to believe that all the documents have been issued and put out there, that the documents that are out there, unredacted, are the only ones that should be unredacted, that many that are going to be redacted are not being redacted for just and proper cause, but rather in order to protect somebody. And I said, hey, Mr. President, if you're listening, I would more than welcome the opportunity to be kind of like, I described it like the Durham report. I would be more than happy, and you could pick somebody who is a total MAGA, and I would sit with them, go through every single document, and I know what needs to be redacted and what doesn't need to be redacted. And that way, rest assured, at least America will know that every document that is redacted is properly redacted. And we will, on the stuff that's redacted, we will actually put out a redaction list explaining why it's redacted without giving away the info. But that's my whole point. And I was saying it sort of tongue in cheek. But now we're in a situation where a judge has to make a determination, and there's no way in the world that, even assuming the judge says so, there's no way in the world that they're going to do it. Zero.
You know, we're getting breaking news, actual breaking news, Cohen, not the type of breaking news.
Wait, is FBI at my door?
Yeah, well, I could have gone there, but I'm not going to go there. But I have serious breaking news though. But this is big and it's important. First, we've heard that Lviv in Ukraine was under attack from Russia. That's in the western, kind of one of the westernmost cities in Ukraine, and so Lviv is right by where NATO, where NATO countries would otherwise be, and it seems that there are the kind of massive missile strikes in Lviv, and now we're seeing that Ukraine's Air Force received indications that Russia is about to kind of launch major missile strikes across all of Ukraine, and all of Ukraine is under a massive ballistic missile warning. You'll recall that as we headed into the new year, before Trump invaded Venezuela, Ukraine specifically said right around this period of time, the 7th or 8th, that Russia was intending to do something massive and create a broader pretext to further escalate the situation, their invasion in Ukraine. So it's the early stages of it, but this appears to be this. Now, Cohen, I believe, get your opinion, this is clearly linked to Trump's handshake with Putin, but not an actual handshake, but yes, an actual handshake or a metaphorical figurative handshake. Was the Western Hemisphere's mine, Europe is yours, Asia is China's. That's how Trump and Rubio see it. And it seems that Rubio's response to Venezuela is great. We're still going to transact in Venezuela with Delcy, but now we've got the green light to escalate in Ukraine. Every action has a consequence. You and I discussed what happens in Venezuela. Russia's going to say, well, then we get to escalate in Ukraine.
And tomorrow you will see China go ahead and launch something against Taiwan. That's the problem. When they start talking about, because again, humor really is first and foremost with this administration, the Don Roe doctrine, right? A pun off of the Monroe Doctrine for spheres of influence. That's exactly what's going to happen next. Why should Russia sit back in their mind? Understand Vladimir Putin. Why should they sit back? And okay, they still have their wars going on, over by the Donbass area and other areas there in the, in Ukraine, with Kiev and so on. Why? Let's go full blown, war on Ukraine, try to decimate them. And while this is happening, China's sitting back and saying, whoa, we got a fucking problem with Taiwan too. In fact, we have a problem with the Taiwanese president, and therefore we've now declared that he's an enemy of the state, and as an enemy of the state, we have the right to go and to issue a warrant for his arrest on an international level, and we're going to go now reclaim Taiwan. You're 100% right, Ben. All right. As in physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is what's happening. This bullshit is going to put the war, the whole world into war with one another.
Yeah, it's not like Biden or Obama didn't recognize that America could invade Venezuela or Colombia or could threaten Greenland. Part of having power is exercising power responsibly.
Or restraint.
And with restraint, exactly, because when power goes against weakness, the weakness need to sometimes figure out how they gain the power.
Right.
And that could occur in different ways. Terrorist attacks, insurgencies, flare-ups in other areas of the world. And so you have to think about these things when America, pre-Trump, was the envy of the world economically. And in a post-World War II order, the US would be the place where countries would say, what's the safe place to buy treasuries? The United States. What's the safe place to buy real estate? The United States. What's the safe place just to invest in? The safest out there? The United States, the best return of investment that's out there. That's not how it's viewed anymore. And so for when you are strong, are you sometimes taken advantage of? Yeah, I mean, you think about the leader of an entourage, right? Whoever that is, you know, the show that I watched in when I was in college, Entourage or whatever, you know.
My two friends from high school, actually, the creators of it.
The person, but you know, was what a ridiculous example. Was Vinny being taken advantage of when his friends stayed in the house for free?
You mean Johnny Drama, his brother?
Was he being taken advantage? Stupidest example I'm ever giving.
Yeah,
was he being taken? I may as well stop this example. Was he being taken advantage of? You know, to some extent, but
sure.
You know, you have a crew that supports you and defends you, and also has your back. And you know, and so the U.S. was recognized this way by the rest of the world, and now Trump took that as being taken advantage of. And instead, he's now empowering China and Russia. And we've seen a massive destabilization of a global world order.
Hey, Ben, can I just add something to this? Your point is so well taken. I'll say it with something less than using entourage as the analogy here. Just because you're the toughest kid in the class doesn't mean that you should walk around every day and beat up everybody else, because you can. In fact, what demonstrates power is the fact that you don't have to, which is why America has always been considered the beacon on the hill for democracy, because we always had the power. We have the best military in the world. And instead of using it, we have it. And it's having it that prevents others from doing what we're, watching them do now. And the reason that they're doing it is because the old adage that goes, a strong America means a strong world. A weak America means a weak world. And we are right now a weak America. Not because Joe Biden was there, the worst president in the history of this country. No. We're there because there are no more rules that keep everybody in check. Nobody looks to America as the beacon on the hill, as the ally to count on in the event shit goes south. Instead, it's America for itself, America first, America isolationism. And as a result of America's isolationism in regard to this Trump administration and their ideology, this flawed Stephen fucking Miller ideology and this Russell Vought bullshit, what you have is, again, Russia now all over Ukraine. You have fighting going on around the world. You have now, mark my words on it, we're going to see China with Taiwan. This is what happens when you have a weak America.
Cohen, that 2-finger salute, who's it going to go to?
So I'm going to step away today from the 2-finger salute. We all know who deserves it. His name is John Ross. He's the fucking animal who shot and killed Renee Nicole Good. And instead of, if we could leave that up, and instead of a 2-finger salute, can we do a 15-minute moment of silence in her honor? truly a life taken too young for no reason at all. And God
Thank you
bless
for
her and her
watching.
family. And I wish them absolutely nothing but health. And we share in their family sorrow.
Thanks everybody for watching Political Beatdown. Make sure you subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack. An incredible writer Cohen is. So check out his Substack, subscribe there. We always love to profile Cohen's articles on the Midas
Thank you for that.
Substack whenever we can. And check that out. Subscribe to @The Michael Cohen Show YouTube channel. Really want to see that channel hit 1 million subscribers this year. We got to make a big push to get @The Michael Cohen Show YouTube at 1 million subscribers. Check that out. Also, check out Mea Culpa audio podcast. Wherever you listen to audio podcasts, just search Mea Culpa, MEACULPA. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're grateful for you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next week on Political Beatdown. I'll see you with my brothers this evening during our live show at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful day. We're in this together. Shout out Beatdown Brigaders. Shout out Midas Mighty.